Yo, check this out. Look at this. Absolutely no way I'm getting through that. Completely solid. But watch this.
What's up everyone, it's your lawyer, Jobber Godot, and recently with the death battle out on Gojo vs Makima, I figured I'd help plant the seed of Makima vs Tooru as a matchup because I believe that objectively, it's not only at least on par with Gojo vs Makima as a matchup entirely, but is better in my humble opinion. Now prove why. I also think it's both these characters' absolute best matchup, and I hope this becomes an official death battle in the future because it's just that good. Oh, and before anyone says it's Joe over, there's nothing prohibiting Makima from getting a run back. Lots of DB characters do, plus JoJo's is and will always be popular, especially on death battle. In addition, it's also like a villain versus villain matchup. People like that. I also imagine if Makima vs Tooru happens, it's either by a DB Champions ballot victory, or when JoJolion gets fully animated, and also by that time, I imagine Chainsaw Man, at least part 1 would be fully animated, maybe part 2's done or something. So there's no need for spoilers. Finally, this whole Makima vs Tooru thing isn't a solo effort. Many people have put their hats into helping this matchup grow with many things, including art pieces, which will all be linked down below in the description as shown in this video. But that's not all, as the creator of Makima vs Tooru, this matchup, Pursuit/Leafgrass, wrote pretty much 90% of the script, so please go check out his YouTube channel and Reddit, please. Oh, and I would be very grateful if y'all give this video like lots of likes, comments, and shares. That'd be awesome. As well as to increase this match's, chances of like happening in the future. There is an official death battle suggestion form that they, look at, which will all be linked down below, especially in the pinned comment. Make sure to submit Makima vs Tooru in that form, and also make sure not to, spam. One submission per person. Very important. By the way, the banger music you all have been hearing so far in this video is called Devil in You, a Makima vs Tooru track made by the talented musician Brandon Yates. If any of you have the money, please donate to him if you can, because his house was recently ransacked. There will be a link for that down below. Alright, now firstly, Makima vs Tooru's connections, to clear up how people misunderstand and refuse to accept the clear potential there is in the fight and animation in this matchup as a whole has to offer, and also show just how perfect these two characters fit thematically. If you don't want to be spoiled on Chainsaw Man or JoJolion, don't watch any further. Now, we present to you Control versus Calamity, Horseman versus Rock Human, Order versus Chaos, Devil versus Parasite. This is Makima versus Tooru.
You look quite divine tonight, here among these vibrant lights. Pure delight surround us as we sail. Signed, yours truly, the whale. Joy Mirage's kingdom come. No one left at stake. Now that existence is on the way, let's see what we can make.
Within the world that hides snakes that will take full advantage of all within their grasp in order to attain their goals, all people are but pawns within their game, and any that would happen to step a foot out of line and go against the perfect plans they laid out, the orders they have given, are now of no use. But where these two manipulators shine is their use of hiding right within plain sight in order to take what they want and attain what they see as theirs. From using their own kind like puppets, killing within the blink of an eye and holding zero restraint, and even taking full advantage of children to forward their plans. Above all else, their powers make them unstoppable, unkillable, uncontrollable, and by far as close to the top of the food chain within their respective series as one can get. Makima, the control devil of Chainsaw Man, and Tooru, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Calamity Incarnate. From the start of their lives to all the information we are given about these two, the stories they're contained within are far and wide, revolving around mothers and parental figures, with Tooru being one of the only characters within JoJolion to have none. The closest thing to parents he himself has were the wasps, as his mother had abandoned him at birth and left Tooru to parasite off of said wasps in order to grow and survive. Also, the song he named his stand after Wonder of You by Elvis Presley is one all about a boy's love for his mother. And for Makima, well, it's rather self-explanatory. But regardless of how fans react, Makima takes full advantage of Denji's lack of parental figures and becomes the sole motherly figure that he's able to latch onto. Makima herself even deep down, always yearned for familial love, eventually receiving such when she is killed and resurrected as Nayuta, Denji now becoming her father figure. And according to Fujimoto, she is named this so that you can take the key from her name and it would just turn it into mama, right? So Makima, remove key, mama. They are not only at the higher end of their world in power, but they are leaders in the head of organizations, even right under the eyes of the government. Tooru from the shadows is the head of the Lookaka organization, but he is also using the facade of the head doctor, Satoru Akefu, through Wonder Review in order to conduct experiments of the Lookaka, while Makima herself is the leader of the Devil Hunters, using said organization to trap, kill, and ultimately control every devil she can. Those that fight within these organizations, the Devil Hunters in the Lookaka organization specifically, use special abilities that make use of the supernatural in order to kill and attack their primary targets, devil contracts and stands respectively. Both at most times are shown to carry heavy apathetic attitudes within nearly all situations, with no care to who ultimately is killed or maimed in the long run, or towards the inhumane and horrific actions they can just commit to reach their end goals. They kill their own kind, humans that stand in their way, puppeteer the deaths of millions, and ultimately desire to take the only action they see fit to achieving their own peace. These two, in order to maintain their quote normal appearance, pretend to be heavily extremely talkative and enjoyable, caring individuals, both tied deeply to the main characters in deeper ways than one could imagine. Makima being obsessed with Pochita and the Chainsaw Devil after having fought him with her sisters in the Horsemen, takes Denji in to take his quote heart, and living for years on end as a rock human, Tooru once dated Josuke's love interest, Yasuo, and killed the father of Josuke's friend, Rai Mamazuku. All this up until the end of their ultimate grand plan, revealing to the one that trusts them, that Denji and Yasuo, that they are in fact the very creatures that the protagonists had been seeking to destroy. Both Tooru and Makima use a rather wide variety of their kind to their advantage as puppets, both humans and those within their species, all pawns so that they have no need to compromise themselves and get their hands dirty, full control and power over them. Makima maintains and controls a multitude of devils, their contracts and devil hunters to use at their disposal, including the several existing weapon hybrids. Tooru, meanwhile, with Wonder Review, has a small array of rock insects that he may throw into the field, as well as the other members of the Lookaka organization and their business associate, Joben Higashita. They are absolutely merciless, ruthless in killing off many main characters within Chainsaw Man and JoJolion. They kill who Denji and Gappy considered close friends right in front of their eyes, Power and Rai Mamazuku, and manipulate and coerce Aki and Joben into their higher ranks, making them put their trust into the higher authority, all until eventually being the catalyst in what killed the two men when they have fulfilled their purpose. The two took away the only remaining family the two thought understood that they truly had left. As said, Makima in both Aki and Power just had them both killed, right? Meanwhile, when Yasuo came to deliver the phone to Josuke, or Gappy, Calamity struck and murdered Kei Nijimura, Josuke's half-sister. Not only within the main characters' lives, but the two are also responsible for nearly hundreds of thousands of deaths within Japan alone, with just their presence within it, responsible for effectively all the devil hunters that she herself has gotten killed, the Japanese citizens she has transferred her deaths onto, the fiends, and finally, the many people that were murdered when the Gun Devil was contracted to kill Makima and hit Japan. Tooru, meanwhile, has lived for likely over 90 years, and his ability has been shown to date back to even the days when Johnny Joestar had come to Japan. Wonder Review is also very likely the very thing that killed Johnny, and is also very likely and highly implied that Calamity hiding away in Tooru is the very reason Japan had entered World War II when they did, which would have led to the many deaths in Japan suffered and caused within the war. Calamity trying to prevent Lucy Steele and Joseph Joestar from entering Japan again in order to pursue Tooru in the Lookaka. Both Makima and Tooru take their deceit within the story so far as to completely fake their love with the main character, Denji and Yasuo respectively. They groom the two through taking full advantage of them at all points, grooming the two so that over time they would love and fully trust them more than any others, eventually to reveal their true nature at the lowest point those two could possibly be, revealing what they truly are. When Denji had lost Aki to the Gun Devil, Makima would kill power to reveal that she never in fact cared for Denji, but merely wanted Pochita within his body. Her true nature as a devil revealed. Meanwhile, after Yasuo calling Tooru in a desperate plea for help, Yasuo would come to realize and be told when he came to her that Tooru was truly the one orchestrating everything as a rock human, that he had appeared throughout her whole life, her childhood too, both revealing that they were the true antagonists all along and that they, in fact, never cared about them at all, only caring for what they had inside that they could just take full advantage of. Makima, as said, truly only wanted Pochita, and Tooru wanted to manipulate Yasuo in order to successfully use her stand, Paisley Park, over the years. Their reveals ultimately led to showing that they hold a power stronger than most, just any other from with their respective worlds, embodying the concept of the world that is undeniable and far beyond terrifying. Makima, a devil that embodies the concept of control and conquest, able to control and manipulate any person or devil at her leisure with a simple command, with a contract to the Prime Minister of Japan making her nigh immortal, and Tooru, a rock human, stand user that is capable of just taking control over Wonder of You, a stand which embodies the flow of logic of the world, fate itself ultimately dubbed Calamity. Both meet their demise beyond what they thought possible, so in overcoming their nigh unbeatable defense, their deaths beyond even then, their long-term view, right, and plans. All at the hands of protagonists that they barely paid proper mind to within their fight. Both Josuke and Denji managed to get close enough to both Makima and Tooru through luring them instead of chasing after them. Eventually, then, using an ability to completely erase Makima and Tooru from the world, Denji, after taking advantage of Makima never even remembering him and taking her to the ground, eats her to make sure that she can never revive again, because Chainsaw Man can eat concepts. And Josuke/Gappy hits Tooru with bubbles from Go Beyond, disintegrating him entirely. Those abilities being the only known way within their universes to completely counter what was once so unstoppable about these two villains, despite practically all odds saying otherwise. Despite their deaths, Makima and Tooru's abilities proceed to live on in some way or another, as Makima is resurrected and reborn as a young girl named Nayuta, who takes Makima's position as, the new control devil. And Tooru's stand, Wonder of You, persists after death and becomes Endless Calamity that is soon erased by Josuke's Go Beyond. The two antagonists are directly opposing protagonists that are the fusions of two friends, one of which having saved the other's life through combining their bodies in order to become one singular being and repay a debt that a friend felt was owed. Through the story, it becomes well established that the purpose of the Devil Hunters and the Lokica organization is to hunt down pieces of a rare and nearly impossible to find commodity that has extreme perceived power, the pieces of the Gun Devil and the Lokica fruit. Eventually, to reveal that they had a personal stockpile of said objects, their motivations, often not looked into, or far into in Tooru's case, is about bringing about peace in its simplest form, to who they see as worthy of it. Makima wishes to build a world without fear, death, famine, and war through taking complete control over Pochita in order to rid the world of devils, as well as her own sense of acceptance and love with the Chainsaw Devil. And Tooru works to maintain the memories of his people and live for those who have fallen, to be the rock above all others with the memories of all the years and past, while also seeking to manipulate the world's governments by using the Lokica 6251 and restructure the balance of power within the world through his own form of revolutionary medicine, all to give rock humans the resources they need to take over from inside of humanity. Their designs prominently feature the theme of spirals, Makima's eyes, and in Tooru's hair, and some of his clothing. You can even see the one on his chest too. The two first appear within their manga in December of 2018 or 2018. Chapter 1 of Chainsaw Man for Makima and Chapter 81 for Tooru's full appearance. Eventually, the two also even die in the same year of 2021. Their names contain only one, their first, not even being given a sure name through the whole, series, right? It's just Makima, it's just Tooru, that's it. That's all the names we get for them. And finally, they have a great connection to animals, which are often perceived as lesser creatures. Tooru having been born from and finding great intrigue in wasps, even seeing one as he dies, and Makima has a very clear obsession with dogs, especially huskies, to the point she even labels those she orders around as dogs. For years, there has been a constant debate within the world between people for what evil is born from. What are you the product of to continue to create, like your present, or shape your future? Is evil born, or is it made? Is it simply within the nature of evil to be born in a more parasite, or is evil nurtured through their surroundings and situations to become a manipulative demon? I feel like this is a really underlooked aspect of Makima vs. Tooru that should be spoken of a lot more. Even I only recently just came to understand and see exactly just how interesting a dynamic and theme between these two characters it is just to discuss and, think about. Makima and Tooru are the perfect dichotomy of the debate, the argument of nurture versus nature, or just flip them, like Tooru and Makima, just nature versus nurture. Being the product of one's natural state and the product of one's upbringing. One may ask themselves exactly why did the creator give life to these two paths? The chance between humanity, carbon-based life forms, Terracumans, silicon-based life forms. It's hard to exactly say, but the most likely of the many options is as follows. Rather than hypothesizing some opposing forces, relationships like shadow and light, positive and negative, rock humans were simply a fallback. The nature of rock humans is simply to be that of just insurance, for if life failed and carbon-based life forms came to a dead end. Simply put, they were a, quote, second path. It is their nature to find the nearest resources to survive and live within the world, no matter what they destroy in order to take it. Even from birth, rock humans attach themselves to queen wasps for 17 years, learning and living within their hives before emerging after those 17 years and destroying the hive, killing every wasp within it. Their first acts within life are to take from any kind of competition. It is within their nature, within Tooru's nature, to be an unkind and apathetic parasite within the world of humanity. Tooru, though, is more than simply a creature of evil by his own nature, but he embodies the very idea of evil within nature, Calamity. From the earth, Tooru did rise, and from the universe, his ability would take shape and form wonder of you. It's said that it is an indisputable fact that Calamity is unavoidable, that no matter what your path is or your purpose is, that even a saint walking the correct path and making no mistakes will eventually encounter Calamity. Wonder of you is in fact not only a force of nature, it is a flow of reason, a law that without access to a state of true non-existence one cannot overcome it. Calamity makes no distinction between right and wrong, nor cruelty and kindness. Wonder of you simply acts on its own intended purpose for who is in control of it. The nature of its evil is that the universe is unforgiving, cold, and even those on the best course will undergo calamity. Can you claim a lion for killing to survive, or any animal to act within their predestined desires of which they have no control over? Simply put, it's within their nature to survive, and it's within the nature of a parasite to simply be uncaring for any life but its own. While devils are beings created by fear, not all devils are, ones which go out their way to inspire such. Devils like the chicken devil, or Gali, the violence fiend, or the angel devil, and so on. Now, of course, that is not the case for all devils. Many revel in the evil they commit. But for one, their evil is far more than a simple desire to do wrong. The conditions of their evil lie not in their natural state, but how they were nurtured to be so. Makima, the control devil, is a devil molded by the actions of those who sought to control her and turn her into the perfect killing machine. We all know for a fact that Makima, if not influenced negatively in the ways we can infer she was would not have turned out so cruel, emotionless, and manipulative with a deep desire to control all within her power. Simple enough to understand that Nayuta is going to become the girl that Makima was never given the chance to be. Denji would give her equal relationships with others, give her the Control Devil's true dream of being given, love unconditionally. And in the simplest way to accomplish this dream, she just give her lots of hugs. All that was desired by Pochita for Denji to do like the right thing and nurture Nayuta into a better person than Makima ever truly was, with plenty of love. Even within the ability that makes Makima so fearsome, her immortality to come back from any death is as unusual as one may see or find. Without her connection to the Prime Minister, she would merely die normally, but to keep herself alive, she relies on a form of unnatural selection that will assure she is repeated and has just many lives, right? The lives of others are sacrificed on the regular in order for this to occur. Her said goal is that of one who sees the natural fears and occurrences of the world, war, death, famine, as nothing but complications and interruptions in order for the world to thrive. Without famine, nobody would go hungry. Without war, the world would fall into peace. And without death, what do people truly have to fear? In a world where Makima controls the Chainsaw Devil, she could erase the world of all its natural fears and turn it into a true utopia. As well as that she would finally be able to have the love she so desperately desires from who she is such a big fan of. And she may nurture and control Pochita in order to achieve all her future plans and desires. It is stated very succinctly within the autobiography of Henry Adams, chaos was the law of nature, order was the dream of man. Makima and Tooru are two sides of the same coin which was never meant to be flipped. With one, you can find yourself within the flow of an unending nightmare, within the natural order of calamity, nature. While on the other side, you are put under control of a woman who is made to only serve her own goals, and by extension, the goals of the Japanese government. One seeks to merely remain within the shadows of a society, and no longer finds the desire to be put into the limelight, understanding limitations of his own physical being. His nature refuses him from forming any meaningful relationships, finding love or even true friendship among his own kind, using the visage of another man in order to achieve the status he deserves. Meanwhile, the other is at the head of her own government and stays very clear within the view of the public as the head of the Devil Hunters. While she herself never receiving the love she so desired because of what she was made to be from the nurturing of others, what the fear of others created her to be. Even as they die, forming into the nothingness within the world, what they leave behind shows and represents exactly what these two were from the beginning, the conclusion of their very meaning. When Makima is finally killed, she is reincarnated, the Control Devil being given another chance to be cared for, to be nurtured into a better being. Meanwhile, Tooru's death simply leaves behind what remains of his death and destruction, wonder of you. His stand now searching for what it can once again destroy. Tooru is left with his only nature as an endless calamity. Quick bonus. A quick extra to throw into their connections and themes these two surround would be the specific use of the spirals in their design. Specifically the spiraling plants imprinted in Tooru's pants and the spirals in his hair, and the design of Makima's eyes. Both do at first glance seem like simple choices to make the two stand out amongst their casts of already interestingly designed characters, especially in JoJo's case for Tooru. But if you look just a bit deeper, you might uncover that those designs may just reveal more about them than only being able to help distinguish them from other people in their own designs, right? So Makima specifically would be obvious to people looking for ways to uncover what she is, actively seeking to find ways to reveal her true nature. The spirals in her eyes aren't unique to her, but They are shared by many other devils within the Chainsaw Man universe. Examples include the Fox Devil, the Future Devil, and her sisters Yoru and Fami. Clearly, to anyone that is attentive, she's not exactly human, and this is proven by the end of Chainsaw Man Part 1. As many people would find out, well, she is evil. She's evil. For Tooru, you would have to dig a bit deeper, right? And maybe stretch even more deeper in the lore of JoJolion, even go back to the part before it, Steel Ball Run, to find some interesting meaning in his design. For example, there's spirals in his hair and even on his clothes because it's a representation of the golden ratio. It's visually appealing because examples of the golden ratio are found and originate from nature, which is a representation of Tooru's entire character, his existence, as he literally came from the earth as a rock human. And this ties back to part 7 as the protagonist used the golden ratio to defeat the villain. Now the villain of part 8 is representative of the golden ratio symbolically by nature within Tooru's character design. Oh, and the final fun fact is, in relation to Gojo vs. Makima and Makima vs. Tooru, connecting these two matchups together is that Gojo and Wonder Review share the same first name / family name, that is Satoru. It's not Wonder Review's real name though, it being his real name's Wonder Review / Calamity, of course, just an alias / cover basically. Also, in some way, Tooru and Gojo share a broken ability that automatically prevents people from ever reaching them. If I had a nickel for every time Makima was put up against someone who had Satoru in their name, or once again, important names or aliases in Tooru / Wonder Review's case, and also have a busted ability that prevents an opponent like Makima from ever reaching him, which is Limitless and Calamity, I'd have 2 nickels. Not much, but it's absolutely unbelievable that it happened twice. So in conclusion, Makima vs. Tooru is just the evil version of Gojo vs. Makima. Now, onto the final subject of this video, the most fun, in my opinion, that's the biggest hook of this matchup. Now, this is definitely the moment most of you are just here for, which is why I left this to be the last thing to talk about, right? I don't know if you could tell, but I and others are extremely passionate about this matchup to a mental patience degree of obsession. I mean, just look at me at Pursuit, for example. Look at this, okay? Come on, this is crazy. When it comes to just something you put many, many hours of your time into in order to perfect and make art, make popular, and find others that can help you do so, obviously, the matchup's creator, Pursuit, is going to treat this subject with a lot of intensity and bring up every single point that one could possibly make in order to just tell you how fucking good this matchup is. The potential of Makima vs. Tooru is just there fight-wise, and leading into what you could just do for the full animation outside of simply fighting, including, interactions, dialogue, character moments between them. And here's a quick note by Pursuit himself. He says, a lot of people take the debunk, quote-unquote, on this match's potential at very face value, despite the fact its potential has been explained numerous times in far better ways than the, quote, debunk was to discredit it all. They bring up false evidence with false statements on how Wonder Review, Tooru, and Calamity operate, use very bad excuses as to why Makima would only go after Tooru if she was just out of character, and even funnier, the scans used in the quote debunk are contradictory to what they're trying to explain, and are in fact wrong scans. And if people are more willing to believe in a debunk that takes everything and explains it wrong rather than the word of a person who, made the matchup while also being helped by others, like myself, that have read JoJolion several times over and have researched everything, molecularly, just to do with Makima and Tooru, especially Wonder Review and its abilities, I personally don't know what more I could do to be more overqualified to explain and write down just how much you can do and how incredible Makima vs. Tooru would just be to witness in animation. And also, this is a note by me too, is if anyone wants a good idea of how Wonder Review works, I highly recommend watching me and Meta's video on the stand. Once again, all this stuff's gonna be linked down below. Now, a lot of what I'm going to explain here is specifically examples on how I see the fight realistically taking place. From the conflict to the climax, I'm going to lay out the prefix that I personally believe Tooru wins with rather high or low difficulty, while also making sure that Makima herself gets the justice she deserves in the concept. More on the basics of the fight, both characters have ways to win. Makima would take every stat except experience and hacks. but due to how Calamity works, it would render her physical stat advantage useless. Both fighters have only 2 to maybe 3 win cons. The first of Tooru's win cons is that Calamity would bypass Makima's contract with the Prime Minister because it wouldn't count as an attack. Calamity has no will or intent of attack as it's just nature, and Denji bypassed her contract because he attacked her out of love, a type of love that isn't truly out to harm or even perceived as an attack or an actual attack against her. Therefore, it wasn't counted as an attack in her contract or in her perception via scent. But if you don't buy that win con for Tooru for some reason, his other win con is pretty straightforward. Calamity could just kill Makima over and over again until every Japanese citizen just dies. It's like it's literally just a Dio vs Alucard situation. Now, someone would counter and say that Tooru is a Japanese citizen, and I personally don't think Tooru is a legal contracted Japanese citizen, given that he's a rock human with an alias of the Wonder View possessed head doctor. Plus, it just wouldn't make sense for him to have a citizenship when he works from the shadows and bro is over 80 years old. Imagine someone looking at his ID, then back at him confused because Tooru looks like a teenager, which would obviously cause a lot of problems for him and his plans. Additionally, he doesn't want to integrate into humanity, he just wants him and the rock humans to be above humanity. Now, obviously, Tooru would be a non-legal contracted citizen of Japan, and I can only assume that Makima's contract only works on legal contracted citizens. It's hard to imagine if an American tourist went to Japan for vacation that they suddenly would count as a citizen under a contract even though they're an American citizen. Now on to Makima's 2 win cons. The first really just comes down to if she could pull off any of her one-shot hacks abilities on Tooru in the fight, which she has a lot of in spades. One of these hacks that would work without question, or at least eventually, is control. It'd work on Tooru, and it's very debatable if it'd work on Wonder View. She'd see Tooru as beneath her, as she just sees him as just some guy or a rock human that isn't the wildest thing she's ever seen, especially with his non-caring attitude, just his character in general, his mood, right? But with Wonder View, it's a different case because, well, she'd sense what kind of being he is. And it's most likely she'd see him as the most powerful concept she's ever seen, especially after seeing the force of Calamity in action. I don't think she'd ever see Calamity or Wonder View as below her. But even if she could control either Tooru or Wonder View, it doesn't actually accomplish anything because Tooru and Wonder View do not control Calamity, and the ability cannot be turned off. So she'd still get pummeled with Calamity despite her controlling Tooru and Wonder View. With the only advice they give to her under her control is, well, it would be the same thing throughout the entire fight, just in different ways, that it's best not to pursue. So her control would eventually be broken by Calamity, and even with Tooru and Wonder View under control, she'd be unable to kill him because of Calamity still attacking her. Now, some people would jump even further and say that she could control the concept of the Calamity, but given the ability / concept at bare minimum is universal, I'm not sure if she'd have the power or ability to pull this off, in my opinion. Makima's second win con would mainly be an unintentional kill of sorts. Imagine her or her devil's destructive capability that wasn't aimed at, intended, or even had a thought of Tooru blows up Morio, or a Calamity intended for Makima or her devils kills Tooru as well because he got caught up in that Calamity. Because remember, Tooru isn't completely protected by calamities, which is why he's keen on staying away from anyone who's pursuing him. Which leads into Makima's final win con that predicates on Calamity not being able to bypass her contract and relies on her massive amount of lives, in which Makima would slowly but surely reach Tooru physically through regeneration and perseverance. Being able to touch and grab Tooru, something that has happened to Wonder View with Rai due to him and Josuke slowly inching towards Wonder View, with them protecting each other from calamities. And while attack is impossible for Makima in the scenario where she does reach Tooru due to, Calamity, right? Prime example being Rai's, death when he did attack, when he did reach Wonder View. The Calamity striking Makima would now also strike Tooru as well, possibly killing him, with Toru's only reaction to that being to just make Wonder View physically attack Makima and get her to pursue him. With all the win cons laid out, this fight becomes a lot more interesting, and I'll make a video going over the fight itself, with all the scaling in computer nerd shit. Alright, On to more so the story or fight progression of Makima vs. Tooru and why it's pretty baller. Something to preface is that the intensity of this fight entirely depends on and is only limited by the imagination of the person that is understanding and conveying the idea of Calamity, and just how Makima may react to the new enemy she must now face. There is no set limit to Calamity as a concept and how it may come about, as it is something with just zero limit within the universe that surrounds it. Makima herself would be able to be given time to understand Calamity and be able to realize that she may not be able to simply take down this devil and call in her own personal army, much like Tooru himself looks through like Wonderview's eyes and sees that Calamity's not able to permanently put down this highly regenerative, possibly immortal woman, and so he calls his entire Lokaka organization of stand users to pull up and help out. This topic I will go into much more depth soon. What one could determine as likely the second most important part to Death Battle's animation is how it begins, as it entirely hinges on the characterization of both in order to convey a good beginning narrative. Death battles that do this rather well are the ones such as Dio vs Alucard, Balrog vs TJ Combo, Solid Snake vs Sam Fisher. Their fights set up great anticipation within the beginning, while also showing perfectly how these characters would realistically come to fight each other given a scenario. People have imagined a decent amount of ideas for how Makima vs Tooru may start, but I feel the best way for it to start is for Makima to not even be truly looking for Tooru or Wonderview at all. Instead, she would be looking for something that doesn't actually exist, nor would technically be Tooru or a stand, a Calamity Devil, that would let her keep on her course without a Calamity attacking her, all in order to eventually find herself at the TG University Hospital. She finds herself facing the back of Wonderview in the form of the head doctor, Satoru Kefu, and after a brief exchange of words, she would eventually begin pursuit against Wonderview with the simple action of taking a step in his direction, and thus the battle would begin. Now that the battle begins, you can finally start having an interesting time putting Makima in her new attempts to pursue and take down Wonderview / the head doctor. I feel the best option for a setting would be to start the match within the TG University Hospital, and have Wonderview slowly but surely turning itself and gaining more features of its real self as Makima begins to understand how Calamity and Wonderview works, right? How they both work. For Makima, having a sudden death to begin with at the hands of any form of hospital equipment you can think of, from an IV stand falling over and impaling her in the side, to simply paper being blown by a stray open window and slicing deep into her body in order to be healed, every Calamity slowly allowing her to get closer and closer to Wonderview and see its true form clearer. Once its true form is revealed, aka just the stand form, not the regular human head doctor form, right? And the contracts she herself could just attempt to employ just don't work on him, as well he's a stand. Makima would realize that there's something more to this quote Calamity Devil, and in which she would just finally begin having more of a conversation with Wonderview to get him talking. And during this, there would be a good chance to show Tooru walking down the street and taking a turn into an alley as he sees through Wonderview's eyes, speaking to himself that Calamity is an unavoidable law, his words lining up with Wonderview's as a rat slowly follows from behind the rock human. Tooru also perhaps could say to himself that he'll call up the rest of the Lokaka organization to aid him against a foe even Calamity can't put down permanently, to set up them joining the fight. There's also many things that you could do with maybe even Wonderview taking advantage of what it is and also shown capable of doing to provoke reactions and pursuit from Makima. After being shown that she is nigh unkillable from what has already nearly killed her so far, such as moving through reflections and the walls, causing ripples to occur in the tiles or carpet, curtains, and the just to make Makima attack him. Such as he did an example of playing with Mitsuba in order to provoke her to make Jobin pursue and help his family. Once Makima is satisfied and has what she needs, she uses Bang towards Wonderview. And when the force destroys a large window next to the stand with no harm being done to him, It pierces her over and over again as she falls to the ground. Wonder View itself covering its eyes not to be, hindered, only when it looks back to see that Makima has disappeared, replaced with a horde of zombies, doctors, and patients under Makima's control, with visible chains attached to their backs as they burst through the walls, door, and floor to bum rush Wonder View. Calamity is once again put into full effect as, and I guess a group as large as this, the destruction of the room Makima and Calamity had caused moments before had destroyed a main gas pipe, right, within the wall through Makima's previous bang. As the gas touches and also shattered light fixture, the room erupts into a large burst of flames and death, blowing up the top half of TG Hospital. All those Makima, having had control over, now turned into charred pieces in their pursuit of the stand Wonder View, now left standing alone and sighing deeply as it begins to disappear into the wall behind it, simply stating, "Wonder of You." Tooru would be confused for a moment, only for a large amount of rats would quickly rush ahead of him. As he staggered from the sight, Makima would appear saying something akin to "from the devil to its contract." Similar to how it was with Rize, right? When Rize was going to meet Denji, only to be stopped by Makima on the way there. Also for the nitpickers, other than assuming that Makima would instantly know that Tooru is the user/contract of Wonder View, she could know reasonably if she met Tooru in the hospital prior to her encountering the head doctor, and let's say her and Tooru share their names, right? And then part ways, with the head doctor/Wonder View somehow knowing Makima's name despite her never telling him her name. Then she concludes that Tooru is behind all this and would immediately go after him. Anyways, with Makima and Tooru now face to face in an alley, this would give the chance for both to have an exchange of words, right? Makima likely refers to Tooru as the contract for the Calamity Devil before then bringing into question just how evil he may be. For example, let's set this dialogue, right? So, calamities make no distinction between right or wrong. It is an evil that chooses not between cruelty and kindness, but whoso deserves those rights. It is necessary for the world to thrive. Kindness and cruelty, calamity, chaos. You have no order, no control. You're a walking contradiction of all you speak of. The necessary evil you claim to be is simply an excuse to justify the atrocities you will continue to commit. And with your actions today, Miss Makima, do you think you are any different? No, I just think you are far worse. Tooru then grabs a nearby soda can and throws it to Makima, then turns around to start running away. Makima hits the can to the side, not seeing as important or worth thinking about, but the lid of the can just pops off and slices her forearm and cuts her hand off. Tooru, while making his escape, then says, "Did you perhaps intend to hit that soda can in order to pursue me further? Caution is not something to throw into the wind, Miss Makima. You clearly have great capabilities of which you could use to quite easily turn around and leave." Makima once again starts to give chase while regenerating, only to have Wonder View walk out of one of the alleyway walls to stop her in her tracks. Now, a very cool idea that was given to me that I'd like to expand upon by a piece of art was Makima pointing towards Wonder View once again, both arms length from each other, referencing the Josuke's, bubble point, at Wonder View manga panel, and she would say, "Bet," and only for a single leaf to fall and slice directly through her finger before she was able to attack with her, finger gun attack, bang, right? Immediately after, a wind current would enter the alleyway, the wind mangling Makima's hand, and slowly her body too as she tries to resist the calamitous force, while Wonder View directly facing her stares with amazement at the type of calamity happening and Makima enduring it. Wonder View would then turn his back to Makima and begin walking away, stating safety first. While walking away from Makima in the direction Tooru left, Wonder View would slightly turn his head towards Makima while walking away, only to see Makima is running towards Wonder View, powering through each calamity, regenerating faster than the calamities can effectively harm her. Not only that, but the calamities and the force that Makima is running with are so destructive that it's quickly destroying the entire alleyway. This prompts Wonder View to switch from slowly walking away to speed walking away in meme fashion, visibly intimidated by Makima's showcase of speed, power, and perseverance. Makima at the end of the alleyway is so close to Wonder View, but both buildings collapse on top of her before she's able to reach him. She quickly breaks out of the rubble, the dust clearing to reveal that Wonder View is gone, and in front of Makima is the entire Lokaka organization, all of them with their stands out ready to attack. One of them calling Makima, quote, devil, due to seeing her regenerating the massive and graphic damage she received from the calamity of the buildings falling on top of her. Makima will fire back with venom, a corpse is talking, as she then immediately summons like her battle-ready devil army, who appear almost instantaneously, by the way, beginning the war between devils and rock humans. A big point to what I have here is to show that from what we see like within JoJolion is that Tooru and Wonder Review are more than capable of working in a versus scenario against an individual that has the necessary like capabilities to like live through the fatal calamities that will continue to get worse and worse as the battle just goes on. Makima, with her vast array of hacks and her own natural abilities, is more than capable of like being that exact person to just deal with some of these calamities that are being badged at her, right? Her personality and ways of acting also perfectly align with Tooru/Wonder Review, which would lead to so much more like interesting dialogue and reflections of their own personal evils, right? And how they view humanity and themselves. Now, this is the part where I could possibly like lose a few of you when discussing the ideas on how to really spice up the animation potential, but believe me when I say that this would do wonders to really bring in some interesting ideas and possible scenes, while also being something that could bump up Tooru's analysis section, as while I do think Tooru has a great amount of detail to go into, doing this would certainly help bring in more talked like about like on his side as well as his organization. I call it the war arc because pretty clearly the arc would be an all-out war between Tooru, Wonder Review, and the entirety of the Lokaka organization, which includes, let's say Yotsu, Tamaki, the Soccer Brothers or Aphex Brothers, Dr. Wu, Poor Tom, and Urban Gorilla. And Makima with her contracts and the weapon hybrid army consisting of Rize, the Bomb Devil hybrid, Kwanzaa, the Bow hybrid, Miri, the Sword Man hybrid, Barum, the Flamethrower hybrid, Katana Man hybrid, the Whip hybrid, and Spear hybrid. You get what's going on here, right? Now, quite obviously, a bit of an issue when like being given the idea comes down to a few things, all of which I will list off and try my best to reasonably justify the inclusions of specifically the Lokaka organization. Reason number one, the most obvious one people would jump to is Death Battle's no outside help rule. This rule is not solidified within the Death Battle wiki. At the end of the episodes of Death Battle, along with the rest of the known rules, or is really even stated within the show at all, for Makima, she herself is able to bring the hybrids to her at beck and call, and summon several of her devils, but even then, the reasoning is less about her and more about Tooru's organization. Simply put, it is realistic to say as they're commanded by him, and he is the mastermind of their faction, that Tooru would be able to call them to action like by phone that he has on him all the time to defend him. And the best example may be an old one, but still one regardless. Dante vs Bayonetta includes cameos from the characters like Trish and Jean in order to like fight alongside both of the main the main title fighters, right? It stands to reason that the quote rule is easily bendable under specific circumstances that this matchup just may meet. Reason number two, Tooru wouldn't have easy access to his organization. While yes, that may be the case, there is an easy solution to this. Simply ignore the fact for the sake of retaining interesting potential. It's not extremely serious. You could very easily just have a moment of Tooru making a call on a phone like he's in GTA or something, then walking off and just paying no mind to Makima while giving her and Wonder Review a moment within the fight just to buy time. Then as she summons and controls her hybrids to form up and help her, the Lokaka organization also could just pull up and walk past Tooru, summoning their stands to their sides as they see they're about to fight literal like devils, right? It's raw as fuck. Obviously, you don't have to make it as realistic as needing them to actually take a long time to get there. All that's needed is a simple call, then they show up and get to Tooru's side to just help take out a serious threat to their organization, like in plans a few seconds later, like after, right? Reason number three, wouldn't this make the fight unfair? In my opinion, it doesn't actually affect the outcome of the fight. Much like Dante vs Bayonetta, the characters that are brought like, to fight by the sides of the title characters are obviously going to play a major factor in the animation and be something to consider within the analysis as a whole, but in the end, the interesting thing is that they play a rather minor factor in the outcome of Makima and Tooru's fight, and the results of said fight between the two, because I personally believe that, well, the Devil Army should just sweep the Lokico organization except for Tooru and Wonderview, so that's at least my thoughts. So that's why I think it's not going to really impact the battle too much, right? But it's just something interesting to add into there. And it's at least, I'd say pretty reasonable to add them, given, Tooru could just call him in, right, with this phone. And he's the leader of it. Now, all this is just to serve up the potential of the animation, add spice to Tooru's side outside of, simply Wonderview, while also giving a showcase of, the rest of JoJolion's Rogues Gallery. It varies in the amount of cool powers that will be displayed and create a great clash between Makima and Tooru's own personal armies. Now, the absolute carnage and chaos that can be included with the addition of both the hybrids and the Lokico organization is hard to do justice with words. Sadly though, I also don't have as much artistic media made by people that are fans of the matchup to also include, but I'm definitely going to just do my best to include some cool looking stuff in order to convey a lot of my points. What I'm now going to list are several interactions and scenarios between many of the organization members and the hybrids, all of which I will now list below. There could obviously be far more, and I encourage others to just think of some other scenarios in their head of this war to help other aspects of this battle out. First, we have Makima while walking within the middle of the battlefield directly towards Tooru's location. Yes, Tooru just probably be on the other side of the battlefield, just vibing, listening to some music behind a tree. She would backhand punch one Apex brother's head so hard that his head would explode violently into rock fragments, and at the same time, she would point her other hand at the other brother in a finger gun motion and say "bang," and blowing up the last brother, right? While toxic gas from the stand is just on her, she just isn't phased, right? Because her contract's still in effect. As for Damo, he just stands defensively as he faces down the whip hybrid. Vitamin C behind him with his hands reach out to take a hold of every whip that she flings towards his direction from her right hand, some grabbing onto the whips and turning them into liquid upon touch, her left-handed now reeled back to strike again while her body just begins to drip. Now Yotsu covers himself defensively, pointing towards the sword man, while the stand "I am a rock." Yeah, it's a stand name. I can't believe it. Begins to barrage and defend its user. While the swordman cannot destroy I Am Rock, as he is not a stand, I Am Rock is just far from strong enough to just do any lasting damage towards a devil of swordman's caliber. The stand ability attracts several smashed and broken rocks towards and begins to just badger and just pierce swordman. Now Urban Gorilla riding inside of, I'm just going to call this guy Jerome. I don't want to pronounce the whole name here. You can see it on screen, it's crazy. So I'm just going to say Jerome, or Durem. Riding inside of Durem is breaking outside, it's breaking out of the ground while Urban sends his stand Brainstorm out towards Katana Man. The Katana hybrid is already beginning a strike while covered in the stand. Many holes had been put into and across his body, causing him to bleed profusely. Though one of his katanas has embedded right into the side of Dorem. A few feet away from Tamaki's fight with the whip hybrid, Dr. Roof fights against the flamethrower hybrid Barum, flames spewing out of his head and arms towards the doctor while he begins to fragment himself into smaller pieces. Many of those pieces even went directly towards Barum in order to get inside of his body. Meanwhile, the fire around the two begins to grow around them and spread across the battlefield, even surrounding Damo and the whip hybrid. Now, the spear hybrid. Its face and a decent amount of its body is covered in asbestos, and several cuts from the rock insect I can't believe this. Fights through the pain and destroys the small crane with ease, though the spear hybrid is also now beginning to be crushed in from the side to do a sudden pressure change, his arm breaking from the side all due to the effects of poor Tom and Ozone Baby. Poor Tom sitting and smoking a small distance away from the Spear Devil, just chilling, having a smoke next to his like little Lego White House behind, right, castle thing behind him, right? Ozone Baby's physical illusion appears right next to the Spear Hybrid. Wonder View and Obladi Oblada going against Rize, the Bomb Hybrid. Wonder View doing a pose to taunt Rize, while 3 other Wonder Views are just seen randomly throughout the battlefield like a Where's Waldo thing. One Wonder View would even just be floating in the sky with its back turned, like one of those Wonder Views facing down the Crossbow Devil. A shot is fired only for the wind of nature to deflect it back to the devil before it even reaches Wonder View. There could be a gag where during the chaos between Makima's Devil Army and the Lokica organization, like including multiple Wonder Views, right, is that Makima is able to finally speed blitz over to like where Tooru's at, and she appears right in front of him and is ready to slice him like with her sword, only to be stopped last second by getting hit with a car. There'd be an awkward silence between him and Makima's regenerating body, and this is just what he says. Nice. Without a care in the world, before abruptly cutting to some other part of the battle between devils and rock humans. And that's pretty much it. I think Makima and her devil army would wipe out the Lokica organization, leaving only Tooru and Wonder View. And an interesting dynamic is if every devil under Makima's control could sense Wonder View's presence and look behind them only to see nothing, and then turn right back around to where they were looking previously to see that Wonder View, a singular Wonder View, is in front of them now. Maybe this could instill fear into the devils, sensing how powerful Wonder View's concept is, similar to how the devils and hybrids reacted to being in hell, with other concepts like vastly more powerful than them being present. As in this scenario, one of the devils would ask Makima if they could off themselves. Then Makima brings like their morale up with more control, offering a date to whoever kills Tooru and Wonder View first. They'd all attack Wonder View at the same time. All would eventually fall like due to Calamity, but an interesting dynamic, or another one here, is that Calamity making these devils like unintentionally harm each other or themselves. Calamity overpowering Makima's control over them, with her only response to the situation in slight shock, similar to Josuke with his bubbles killing Rai being, I was controlling them. Then Wonder View would respond that in the flow of Calamity, Miss Makima, you have no control. And now this brings us to, after the Devil Army and Lokica organization is just wiped out, leaving Makima and Tooru / Wonder View with nothing but chaos, destruction, and dead bodies around them, Makima would be floating up in the stormy sky, looking down while Tooru is on the ground looking up at her. A small drizzle of rain falling before the storm, one of the droplets go through her head, which she then forms her brain matter into it, like a halo, from that like droplet going through her, like her brain and head, right? A shade is over like Makima's right eye, as her left eye is glowing yellow, looking like an angelic demon. Then this dialogue would happen. Every deed and action has consequences, and evil deeds bring about suffering. What suffering have you forced upon others with your control, Miss Makima, to make Calamity so angry? I don't recall asking for lessons on karma from a being whose mere nature is that of evil. With what I've been shown and all that has occurred to me today, well, I've met devils that are more human than you. Tooru, in response, while putting on his earbuds, or if they're already on, his current track will be paused while he just selects his final track. He'll say, "Farewell, Miss Makima. When everything's over, all that will remain are dreams and memories. The flow of Calamity has reached its final form." Tooru, after saying this, puts on the Wonder View track and completely turns his back on Makima while walking away, vibing to the music. Makima would be pelted once more by calamities, while slowly making her way to Tooru. And so she does, into Toru's complete shock and horror, interrupting his song and seeing Tooru now share the punishment of Calamity's onslaught on her. Makima would have the biggest smile on her face and would begin laughing with glee as she shatters Toru's non-caring and dismissal facade, seeing not only has Makima reached him, but he's in actual danger for the first time. Tooru would yell in desperation, "Wonder View, stop this goddamn bitch already, goddammit." And yes, this is in reference to when he begged Yasuo to get Godot away from him to save his life. Wonder View then attempts to rip Makima off but fails. Makima would then send a chain through Tooru, putting him under control, and order Tooru to just shut off Calamity. But Tooru says something akin to, if I could turn it off, why would I let it harm me? Safety first, that is my goal after all. After he says that, a rock insect would suddenly appear on Makima's hand, beginning the final dialogue. Of course, obla di, obla da, it must have fell out of my sleeve when I grabbed you. Despite my faith in the Calamity, I feel like what just transpired now was nothing short of a miracle. Mirroring how Josuke tried to shoot the rock insects off, Makima does the same thing in this situation by using Bang to just shoot the rock insects off her arm and hand, but she immediately notices that something is wrong. Wonder if he responds. What's the matter, Miss Makima? They say a cat has 9 lives, but you had over 126 million during our battle. Looks like you're down to your last one. You both should have... Tooru isn't a Japanese citizen. Correct! Say, why don't you try firing another shot by pointing your little finger gun at me? No, I doubt you can even attack anymore, can you? This is... Then Wonder of You begins to transform. Half Head Doctor, half Wonder of You. You shouldn't be allowed to have anything. Not control, not calamity, nothing. This is hardly enough to... Then it's finally just the Head Doctor form. Go to hell. As a small meteor then shoots right through a large portion of Makima's torso, damage similar to Toji getting hollow purpled by Gojo, she then immediately falls to the ground dead. Control goes away and releases Tooru. Tooru looks at Makima's dead body on the ground with a feeling that she ain't coming back this time, and says, "Could have been a valuable ally. I could even see us becoming acquaintances, but you had to be one crazy ass bitch." And this is a Rush Hour reference, by the way. As Tooru would walk away, a bolt of lightning would strike Makima's corpse, and via Calamity, this attack would disintegrate Makima's body into ashes scattered by the wind, as the to be continued JoJo era would freeze frame and end the episode /fight. Now, this part isn't even needed, but I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty funny, and I wouldn't take it too seriously. Just don't take it too seriously. It's just good fun. Yeah, I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 in the ship potential. I think they can just make it work, you know what I'm saying? I think they'd be able to make it work. Better than Gojo Makima ship by a mile. Anyways, that's all I really have to say. If you aren't sold on this matchup, then I do not know what else I could really do or say. Other than that, I did my best to promote and show why this match is just... And the comparison between the two characters is just fucking awesome, okay? That's all I got for y'all. See y'all later.